Welcome to our channel HASHMICLINICS.
Welcome! Today we are going to do a deep dive into Agaricus Muscarius. You know, it's derived from the Amanita fungus, the Fly Agaric, and honestly, it presents one of the most fascinating and distinct neurological pictures in our entire Materia Medica. So let's start with the absolute central essence of the remedy, and it's captured perfectly in this one line. Right off the bat, we have to differentiate this from the plethoric, congestive state you'd see in a remedy like belladonna. That's not what this is. Agaricus is a pure, toxic excitement of the nervous system. Think of it as a state of profound irritation, not inflammation. This is the foundation, really, and all the other symptoms flow directly from this concept. You see, this fungus acts as a seriously powerful intoxicant to the brain. We're talking about a vertigo and delirium that can be even more intense than what you'd see from alcohol. But, and this is the crucial clinical distinction, this state is all about cerebral excitement. It's not that active inflammatory congestion that would make you think of other remedies. What we're really looking at here is a profound disturbance of the nervous system itself. Okay, so this slide really lays out the toxicological roadmap for us, and this directly informs how we understand the remedy's symptoms. Notice that slow onset, 12 to 14 hours after exposure. That tells you we're dealing with a deep-acting agent. And this sequence, from vertigo to delirium and then crashing down into stupor, it gives us a really clear map of the patient's potential journey. Now, how does this cerebral intoxication actually show up physically? Well, it finds its primary expression through the motor nerves. The brain's chaotic state basically translates into a body that just cannot be still. This creates that classic picture of a really profound neurological disturbance. So here they are, the cardinal motor symptoms. We're talking everything from the tiniest quiver of an eyelid, those fasciculations, all the way to the entire body being caught up in a choreic dance. This makes Agaricus one of our absolute top remedies for these kinds of spasmodic issues. And look at the incoordination, the staggering gait, the stumbling, the clumsiness of dropping things. It's like there's a total breakdown in communication between the brain and the muscles. And here we have it. This is a critical modality, a true keynote of the remedy. The fact that all the twitching, all the jerking, all the choreic movements just completely stop the moment the patient falls asleep, well, that's a powerful, high-grade confirmatory symptom. When you see this in a case, Agaricus needs to be right at the top of your differential. Okay, so moving from the motor sphere over to the sensory sphere, we find another unique and characteristic part of this remedy picture. The skin symptoms are just as chaotic and contradictory as the motor symptoms we just talked about. First, this sensory disturbance shows up as an intense, just intolerable burning sensation. And along with that burning comes an equally intolerable itching. And what's really characteristic is that the itching changes place as soon as they scratch it, which, as you can imagine, drives the patient absolutely crazy. And then what we see clinically is that the affected parts, and this is typically the ears, nose, face, hands, and feet, they become red, they get hot, and they swell up. This is it. This is the classic description that pulls that whole symptom picture together. That triad of burning, itching, and redness presents exactly as from frostbite. And this is what makes Agaricus a premier remedy for things like chilblains and other conditions that come from being exposed to the cold. Now, this is a truly bizarre sensory symptom, and it's a real hallmark of the remedy. The patient doesn't just feel cold. They feel as if they are literally being pierced by needles made of ice. And to make it even stranger, this can alternate with a sensation of hot needles. This strange, rare, and peculiar sensation is a key way to differentiate Agaricus from other neuralgia remedies. All right, now let's explore the mind, which, just like the body, is in a state of chaotic excitement and contradiction. The intoxication isn't just physical, it creates a profoundly altered mental state. This slide just illustrates the alternating mental states perfectly. On the one hand, you've got this silly, almost manic exhilaration. The patient is talking a mile a minute, they're making up poetry, they're prophesying, they're fearless. But then, on the other hand, they can swing into this dull, apathetic, morose state where they won't even answer questions and are completely averse to any kind of work. This polarity is classic Agaricus. The provings give us a very clear outline of this four-stage progression. It can start with just simple cheerfulness, then it moves into a definite intoxication with distorted perceptions,
Then it can escalate into a furious, raging delirium, and finally it collapses into mental depression and confusion. This framework is so helpful for us because it helps us place our patient's mental state within the remedy's known sphere of action.
So let's try to synthesize all this information into a practical clinical guide. We're going to focus on the most valuable and peculiar symptoms, the ones that are really going to lead you to a confident prescription. Now this is a classic high-grade keynote. It's such a peculiar pattern of disorganization in the nervous system. So when a patient comes to you with complaints in, say, the right arm and the left leg, or the other way around, Agaricus should be at the very top of your list to consider. Modalities are, of course, absolutely critical for prescribing. We have to note the profound aggravation from sexual activity. That's a huge keynote for spinal irritation cases. The sensitivity to cold air and thunderstorms is also really marked. And there it is again, that unique amelioration of the twitching during sleep. It just confirms how central and important that symptom is. Okay, this is a strange, rare, and peculiar symptom of the highest order. I mean, it's an almost unbelievable reflex. If you ever elicit this in a case where touching the spine actually provokes involuntary laughter, that is an unmistakable and definitive call for Agaricus. You know, differentiation is key, especially with these other choreic or delirious remedies. You think about Tarentula's constant rhythmic motion that gets better from music, or Hyoscyamus with its shameless lascivious mania. Agaricus is so different. It's distinguished by its silly, poetic delirium, its profound chilliness, and of course that all-important keynote, the twitching stops during sleep. Finally, let's just cover some practical guidance. Where might we be overlooking this remedy in our own clinical practice? So remember, these patient types and these clinical situations. Of course, think of Agaricus for the drunkard with tremors, but also think of it for the child who's slow to develop and has convulsions after being scolded. And critically, in those cases of spinal irritation or just profound exhaustion that are directly linked to sexual excess, Agaricus is a key remedy that I think sometimes gets missed. Look, if you remember nothing else from this explainer, I want you to remember this triad. Number 1, involuntary twitching that ceases during sleep. Number 2, frostbite sensations with that burning and itching. And number 3, diagonal symptoms. That is the absolute core of this remedy. So I want to leave you with a question to really think about. Go back to your active cases. Who are those patients with the complex neurological pictures? The ones with the strange neuralgias, the twitching disorders, the odd mental confusion. Is it possible that in one of those cases you might have overlooked the drunken clown of our Materia Medica? Could this clumsy, poetic, twitching remedy be the key that provides a new therapeutic path for one of your patients in need?
Professor Dr. Rafat Hashmi is a distinguished homeopathic physician, educator, and researcher with over 4 decades of clinical and teaching experience. He is widely respected for his deep command of Materia Medica, repertory, and constitutional prescribing, combined with a practical, patient-centered approach. Dr. Hashmi has dedicated his career to training generations of homeopathic doctors, blending classical principles with modern clinical insight. He is also known for his innovative work in digital homeopathy, developing educational content, clinical tools, and AI-assisted systems to enhance remedy selection and case analysis. With a strong commitment to ethical practice and lifelong learning, Professor Dr. Rafat Hashmi continues to guide, inspire, and elevate the standards of homeopathic education and patient care.